a scanning technique. So I have the scanner up at my desk, so hopefully you've been starting to look, although you have time, you could do it over the weekend, to look for an old photo. If you don't, I have a few here that we can use. So it's part of it's going to be scanning the image and learning how to use those. Now, there's a few flatbed scanners on some of the computers here. If someone's at the computer, you can come up to my computer and do that. Before I do that, I want to, for those who haven't taken the quiz, and just a kind of a nice review, is I'm just going to review the Lesson 3 quiz. Because I think selections are a very important part of Photoshop. So if you haven't done it, it's good for you. If you haven't taken it twice, you can do that as well. Just coming back into our assignments on Canvas, just to kind of review them. So today is the last day for total credit time of not any late penalties. Is September 24th for the quiz that we're going to go over today. You have until September 29th to take it. For every day that you wait after that day, it's a day or a point off. The project for creating a composite image from a flat file, that is due on the 29th, which is Monday at the end of the day. So if you haven't handed that in, you have until the end of day Monday. That is available until October 6th. The book exercise for lesson 2 that we did in the last 2 classes, where it's the people on the bridge, that is due on October 6th, available till October 13th. Again, every day past the 6th is a point taken off. Remember, if you choose anything to do in an order, always do the quizzes and projects first, because they are 40% each of your grade. Then the quiz for lesson 2, basic photo corrections, that is due on October 8th. It'll be open until the 15th. As a reminder, you have 2 chances to take the quiz. It tells you what answer you got wrong afterwards. So if you have like a short memory or weren't sure on some of those, you might want to just kind of take notes on which ones you answered so you could fly through it the second time, because you'll have to answer all the questions again. And then the project that I'm going to be doing today of restoring memories, retouching an old image, October 13th. So we got like about 3 weeks, a little over 2.5 weeks to get this one done, and that is open until October 20th. Any questions on any of those assignments that are current? Now, there is still one more available assignment, and that is open until Monday. If you haven't, I think everybody has, done the book exercise for lesson 3. That's with the shells and the shadow box with the screws in the corner, and you crop it out. So that is open until the 29th. Everything else is closed. Any questions on any of that? All right, so before we do that, I'm just going to take a few minutes here, won't take long, to kind of review the lesson 3 quiz. If you haven't taken it, pay attention, because you're going to find out, we're going to go through the answers of it. So just kind of take mental note, or if you want to write things down, it doesn't matter to me. I don't find it cheating, you're just kind of learning, right? So even when you take these quizzes, if you take them here in class, you can ask your fellow students, or you can ask me, and I'll come and help you. They're not meant to make you stumble. They're just meant to solidify the information from the chapter. So lesson 3, let's just go ahead and preview this. I'm going to go in the order. So the question 1, the rectangular marquee and elliptical marquee tool make what types of selections? Do they make a contour selection, a color selection, a geometric selection, or an object selection? Geometric selection. So it's right in the tool. So that is a geometric selection, the rectangular marquee and the elliptical marquee. Good. Freehand selections are made with what set of tools? The magic wand, the quick selection tool, the marquee tool, or the lasso tool? Freehand selections.
Magic wand.
So Joe says magic wand.
You can do the lasso too, but it's freehand.
So Isabella says the lasso. How many people agree with Joe, magic wand, for a freehand selection? How many people agree with Isabella, the lasso tool? How many people don't know? I only saw like 3 hands raised. It's the lasso tool. What kind of selection does the magic wand tool make?
The object, it
What does magic wand select?
Color.
Who said it? Isabella. Color.
colors.
Right?
Yeah.
So magic wand isn't a freehand selection, the lasso is. So polygon, magnetic, regular lasso are freehand selections. An edge-based selection can be made with the blank tool. So what's the tool that selects by edge? It's my favorite selection tool.
The quick one?
What's that called? You're close.
Yeah.
Joe says the quick one. What's the name of the tool?
It's, I could use the magnetic. No.
Magnetic is an edge, although you do follow the
Yeah.
contour. That's a
Yeah.
freehand selection because you're kind of drawing around it. The quick,
Was it the object selection?
Quick object.
what'd you say?
The object selection?
Not object selection, quick selection. It's the quick selection tool is an edge base. The object selection is like it searches for an object.
Right.
Color-based selections are made with the what tool? We just said this.
The wand.
The magic wand tool. So the magic wand tool will select by color. Repositioning a selection marquee while creating it. So this is when we were selecting that bowl. So repositioning a selection while creating it can be done by holding down the blank while still holding down the mouse button and continuing to drag. What did we say we had to hold down before we release that mouse button in order to reposition an active selection while we're creating it? Spacebar. So spacebar held down before you release your mouse will allow you to reposition an active selection and allow you to make it bigger or smaller. Really important to know that. Blank blurs the edges by building a transition boundary between the selection and its surrounding pixels. What did we say the term was that blurs and softens the edges of a selection? Feathering. If we can't remember where feather is, it's modify, select, feather in Photoshop. So if we were to go, I think this is Photoshop, oops, this is Photoshop here. So we would go to select. Let me see if we can get it here. Let me see. Okay, let me make a selection here just so we could do it. Select, modify, feather. Shift F6 is the keyboard shortcut command to get to that in case you do not remember. That will soften the edges by blurring them. Okay, so that is feather. Good, you guys got that one. Once you've made a selection, what area of the image can be edited? The inverse of the active selection can be edited. Only the area outside of the selection can be edited. Only the area within an active selection can be edited. The entire layer can be edited. So is it A, B, C, or D? So what part of the selection can you edit?
The one that's selected.
Inside.
On the inside of the selection. So the inside of those marching ants is the only thing that you can edit. So that's why it's a selection. You've selected just one certain area that can be edited. The tolerance option sets the sensitivity of the marquee tool, magic wand, quick selection tool, or object selection tool. Which tool has tolerance as an option? The magic wand. And what does that tolerance do? It selects that number, it selects a tone that number, plus and below that number. So if the tolerance is at 32, it's going to select that color, and then 32 above and 32 below. So it's important to know that that's the option that you use when you select color. When using the quick selection tool and you want to create a better quality selection with edges that are truer to the object, you should select auto enhance in the options bar. Hold down the option key while making your selection. Hold down the shift key while making your selection, or choose a low tolerance. Which one of those do we want to do? Let me make this a little bit bigger for the people in the back. To make edges that are truer to the object, you should auto enhance, right? Because tolerance, that goes to magic wand, and these two have to do with adding and subtracting from your selection. So holding or selecting auto enhance, which is in your options bar for that tool. You can make a selection from an object's center point, meaning that if we have a circle and we want to select from the center and expand out, when using the marquee tool, either the rectangular or the elliptical marquee tool, by holding down what key will make that selection. The command key, now the first ones are all in Mac, so command control is in PC. So is it the command key that we hold down, the shift key, the option key, or the space bar? If we want to select from the center and expand out.
Shift key?
Not the shift key,
The
option. Option key will go. Shift key, what will the shift key do if we use that marquee tool?
It would actually move it.
No, the shift key will constrain it to a perfect square or a perfect circle. Okay, so if you want to select a perfect circle and start from the center and go out, you're going to hold your shift key down to make it a perfect circle and the option key to go out from the center. Now that option key also works, say you have text that's centered on your page, right? You have something and you're making a flyer and then you have the title right here and it's centered. And you want to make that title smaller. So you do a Command T, right? And Command T is a free transform. And we have our little boxes here. And say you want this just to go smaller. If you hold down the Option key, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to shrink it from the center. If you didn't hold the Option key and you would drag it this way, now your piece would be off center. So if you hold down that Option key, you have anything that's centered and you want to expand it or contract it to be from the center, same thing works with Command T on your free transform. Very time-saving thing to know. So from the center is Option. True or false? You are not able to scale an active selection. True or false? Raise your hand. How many people think true? Y'all got it wrong. When did we scale an active selection in lesson 3? The screw, right? Remember the screw? We made a selection of that screw. It was too big. It was active because it had the marching ants around it, and we scaled it down. That was an active selection. So that screw is the example of scaling an active selection. So you can scale an active selection by Command T. That little screw that we did is the example of how we were to do that. All right. True or false? You can move and duplicate a selection at the same time. True. Same thing with the screw. Does anyone remember what key we hold down in order to duplicate an active selection? Option key. It'll also work for anything and any kind of object on your piece. It doesn't have to be selected. So if you have a layer, Say like if you're making something and you have an apple on a layer and you want to create many apples, you just click on that apple, hold down your Option key, and you can quickly duplicate it instead of selecting and copying and pasting. So it's a very fast way to duplicate is that Option key. A lot of keys work for the same or for different types of things. It takes a while to get to know them. To duplicate a layer, okay, I just kind of gave this away. To duplicate a layer or a selection with the Move tool, select, press blank as you position the pointer inside the selection. So I just gave you the answer to that. Alt Windows, Option Mac, right? So if you want to duplicate anything, it's Alt Windows, Option Mac. You can add to a selection by pressing blank as you drag or click with the selection tool. The command for Windows, command for Mac, Alt for Windows, Option for Mac, none of these, or the Shift key. So how do we add to a selection? What key do we hold down, or is it none of these? I heard one Shift. Anyone else? The answer is Shift. Shift adds to your selection. When you do this, you have to have a selection tool selected in your toolbox. So you have to have the marquee tool, a lasso tool, the quick selection tool, the object selection tool. It has to be one of your selection tools for this to work. On the other side, you can subtract from a selection by pressing blank as you drag or click with the selection tool. Is it Command Control, Mac and Windows, Option or Alt on Mac and Windows, the Shift key, or the space bar? So we want to subtract from our selection using one of the selection tools. What key do we hold down? Option. So Shift adds to a selection, Option takes away. The tolerance value determines how many color tones the magic wand tool will select. True or false? True. We just went over that. So that's true. It's tolerance. The object selection tool works best on a simple background. True or false? True, right? So we're trying to select out an object. If you've got a very busy background and you have an object in front of it and you're trying to select it out, it's going to have a difficult time distinguishing the object from the background. So it's a good tool to use if you have a simple background. That's why if I'm trying to, say, create some sort of poster or a composite or a collage, I'll usually choose or try to shoot my photography on a simple white background. If you deselect an area by accident, so you move your selection tool, you may be able to restore the selection by choosing Edit, Undo, so the Edit menu, go to Undo, Command Z or Control Z, Select, Reselect, or all of these are correct.
See?
I heard a few answers.
Command Z, don't you?
So Command Z, all of these are correct. So you can Command Z, Select is from the Select menu, Edit is from the Edit menu. All of those will restore your selection if you mistakenly lose a selection. If you use the Magic Wand tool to select the background in order to select the subject, so if you have something that's on a white background, we know that the Magic Wand tool selects by color. If we select the background in order to select the object or whatever we're trying to do, is this called transforming your selection, inverting your selection, making an inverse selection, or none of these?
Inverse?
Inverse. Not to be confused with invert. Invert switches the color. So if I have an object that I have selected that's black, so if I have like a logo that I downloaded, if I'm doing a project for Nike and this is black on a white background and I've selected it and I want to make that a white logo, I just do an invert selection. That just chooses the opposite color. So if this is red, if it's a red color and I invert it, what color is that logo going to turn? Anyone know from the color wheel? Anyone take an art class?
Green.
Green. If it's blue, yellow. So there's opposite colors, or the complementary colors depending on the color wheel. So invert will choose the opposite color. Inverse selection selects the opposite selection.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Where would you find it in the inverse?
So I'll show you. So if we go to select, it kind of will go to select. So if we go to inverse, it's under select. And I'm gonna guess that edit invert, I rarely ever use it because I just know it's Command I. Let's see if we do let me do a copy and a paste and see what happens. And let's go to edit. Let me find, I'm not really sure, that's a good question. Oh, there it is there. No, that's not it, that's Command edit image, oh, no, that's image size. Layer, might be layer, it has to do with the selection though. Filter view. I don't know where the invert is, but I always just know it's Command I. So I rarely come up, I know all the keyboard shortcut commands,
Okay.
but it's Command I. And inverse is Command Shift I. So if I were to make this, then you would see it here, inverse. Let's see if I can find invert. That's a good question. I'll find out for you during break. But it's Command I, Command Shift I, and Command I. Last question. To select a perfect circle or a perfect square, we just went over this, press blank as you drag with the marquee tool. Is it the Command key, the space bar, the Shift key, or the Option key? Shift key. Shift key will constrain. So those are the answers to the quiz. So if you haven't taken it, I hope you paid attention. Doesn't look like a lot of you did, but good luck to you. Okay, so now let's get back to our assignments. We're going to do our demo for project number 3 here. Restoring memories, retouching an old image. So I'm just going to kind of read through this quick because I'm sure all of you can read. So in this project, you're going to explore the art of image restoration by retouching an old scanned photograph using Adobe Photoshop. Old scanned photograph. If you don't have one that's scanned, you have a digital one, that's fine. But if you bring me a photo that was done from like 2007, not going to fly. You're going to get a really poor grade. If there's not like some sort of restoration in it, don't use it. Come up and use one of mine or search for an old photo to restore. I've had some students that bring in a photo from like 3 years ago and they maybe just do a little color correction. This is doing restoration of a photo. It's not just a little color correction. It's not just like brushing something out. It's restoration of a photo. So when in doubt, ask me and I'll tell you instead of like wasting time. So your goal is to enhance the quality of the image, repair damaged areas, and bring new life to faded memories. This assignment will help you develop technical skills, patience, and attention to detail, all essential for digital imaging. So here are the objectives. Practicing image restoration techniques. We went over the tools. There's some restoration tools that we learned in lesson 2. When in doubt, go back to lesson 2 in your book. Develop an eye for detail. You know, zoom up. That's why we learned the zoom tool in the very first lesson, so you can zoom up to find those objects that need to be repaired. There might be a lot of layers that we're going to have in this. So learning how to manage your layers. Remember with adjustment layers, sometimes you might have to collapse those in order to make an edit to the whole entire area. So it's okay if you, like say, do a contrast, brightness, levels, hue and saturation, and then flatten those so you can make another kind of edit to it. You're going to present your work in a before and after format. So First, you're gonna scan the photograph. Got the scanner here, and there's 5 other ones on the desks here. If you don't have access to one, just let me know and we can come up here. We're gonna scan these at high resolution, right? So high resolution means an actual size at 300 ppi. So you wanna make sure that you select that. Now, if you think that your picture, we're gonna do like a 5 by 5. So this is a little bit smaller than 5 by 5. So my suggestion, it's always better to scan at a higher resolution than what you need than the exact same resolution.
Well, don't you want to do it at 600 ppi?
Right, so this is probably like I'd say 2.5 by 2.5. So
Right.
Joe is absolutely right. I would scan this at 600, so I'm not losing any resolution. It doesn't really take too much storage area. And say I wanted to take this picture and make it really big. Say for my dad's like 90th birthday next month, right? And I want to print this out big. So I would scan it at like 2400 because it's a very small photograph. If I wanted to output this to like a big poster size, I would want to make sure that I have a high resolution. So it's always better to scan up front at a high resolution. This way you have many more options. Save the cropped. We're going to save that one in a Photoshop. So we're going to hand this one in as a Photoshop. So your original scan, you can keep it as a Photoshop file. We're going to look for imperfections. So you're going to assess the image, look for imperfections, scratches, dusts, folds, tears, discoloration, and identify what areas need to be restored. We're going to do the same retouching process that we did in lesson 2. Now, if you have the generative tools, it's going to be a lot easier. If you're depending on just the ones in this lab, I'm not sure if they work or not. If they don't, let me know and I'll help you using the clone stamp tool. We said the clone stamp tool is just like it copies and pastes pixels. Clone stamp tool, you have to make a source selection. We did that by holding down the option key. Healing brush, spot healing brush, adjustment layers, dodge and burn tools. Has anyone ever taken a darkroom class here?
No.
So dodge and burn is to lighten and darken. So if there is just a certain spot of someone's face, there's a tool, and I'll show you when I do this, there's a tool that's called dodge and burn, right? So burn will lighten, dodge will darken. So it goes back to the darkroom. So before digital photography, if anyone has ever taken one here where you have photographic paper, you put the negative in a machine that will shine a light source through the negative, expose the paper. Now, the reason why it's called dodge and burn is there's like a little tool and it looks kind of like, when I did it in the darkroom, it's like a round piece of cardboard and it has almost like a popsicle stick on it, right? So if you want to make your image lighter, you dodge the light, right? And you kind of dodge the light that's exposing the paper. If you want to make an image darker, you're going to burn that piece. So dodging and burning will either lighten or darken an image. So if I just have a certain portion of someone's face, not the whole face, that I want to lighten, I can use the dodge and burn tools. Sharpening filters like we did in lesson 2. Patch tool, neural filters. Those are all ones that we used in lesson 2. These will also help us work non-destructively with some of these, meaning that you can always turn on and off any of the adjustment layers that you have done. You're going to save your final file as your last name, first name, restored scan.pdf. This is one that you're going to upload. This exercise has 2 files that you're going to upload, a before and after file and your restored PDF file. So the deliverables, your layered Photoshop file that you cropped and scanned, exported restored image, and your presentation. So here is the before and after template that you're going to download. So when you click on that, it's going to download it. I give you the rubric under here, so technical execution. Did you use the tools correctly? Attention to detail, use of tools and technique, and your presentation. So when you download that image, that file, this is what you get. Let me just kind of make this a little bit smaller. So this is the before and after file, and I'm going to show you how we're going to use that. So this is going to be the one file, and then the scan is going to be the next that you're going to upload both of them.
And then we submit the corrected one.
The corrected one, and then the before and after one. Okay? Yeah.
So when you're uploading them, can you upload a Photoshop?
Yes, I have made it so you can upload a PSD file. So the PSD file will be the one that you did, and then this one is going to be the PDF file. Okay, so let's look at how we're going to scan. So that's the first step. So if you come up to this or any of the stations that have a scanner along the bottom, at the very bottom, it's an Epson scan. So it's probably like the 1, 2, 3, fourth one in. And it kind of looks like a scanner. If you just hover over it, it says Epson scan. When you click it open, you'll see at the top it is Epson scan 2. You want to make sure that the scanner that you have chosen, if you look on the front of the scanner, it has a name. So this one is Epson Perfection V700 Photo. Epson Perfection V700. So that is the right scanner. If we look, I think it's usually just one that's there. There are some that have more than one application, more than one app that they have. So just make sure you have the right scanner in there. We're going to keep the default settings, but you could choose photograph because that's what we are doing. If it was a magazine, just so you know, for the sake of scanning, if it was a magazine or a newspaper, magazines or newspapers aren't the same as a photo. They are printed with dots. They print with dots. So there's some screening techniques that if you were to do a magazine and scan it, you could really see those dots. So that's how a newspaper and magazine work, because they're not photographic paper that are exposed by light in that process that I just said. So
That's how NASA does it, right? NASA does it with dots.
I'm not sure.
I mean, can you imagine from Mars?
Oh, those types of things. So, but if anything is like printed as opposed to exposed on photographic paper, it's typically done with dots. So if you were to take, if you wanted to scan something that you created from this or across the hall, those are like inkjet and they just spray out little dots, right? So it's a little different than if you were to go into the photo lab and expose photographic paper with light. Those aren't done with dots. That's done with a totally different process. So we are in photo mode. It's a photographic setting. We're on scanner glass. If we just look at some of these other ones, it's not any of these, but transparency unit with film area guided. It's none of those. So it's on the scanner glass. It's just like a photocopy machine if we wanted to think of it. Our document type is reflective, meaning it's not transparency. It's not a negative. There's only one choice that we have on that. You can keep the color at the default of 24-bit, right? So just, you don't have to worry about that. This is where we're going to change our resolution or DPI. Now, whenever you're talking about prints or scanning, they use DPI, which is the same as PPI. DPI is dots per inch or pixels per inch. I'm going to choose 600 because mine is about half the size that we need. We're shooting for 5.5. This is about 2.5, right? So I'm shooting for 600. For the quality, I'm always going to choose a higher quality, right?
What if you have a 5x5?
If you have a 5x5 photo, then you can scan it at 300.
Even if it's low quality pixel?
If it's a photograph and not a printout, then you're still, it won't give you any better quality. It's going to scan what you have. Like you could do that at 300.
Okay.
Yep. Because it's not gonna, that scan is not gonna enhance anything of what you have as far as the photo quality. That's what you're gonna do in Photoshop. So that, even if you were to scan it at like 2400, it's not gonna make the quality any better. What's gonna make the quality is the actions that we're gonna use in Photoshop. Okay, the next thing, let's see, I don't know if I can, maybe I can move this a little higher. Let me try to move this higher so you in the back can see, is we're gonna save this as a JPEG image format, right? Let's just look at some of the choices that we have. You can save it as a PNG, a TIFF file format, a PDF. Now, if you want, you could also save it as a TIFF file format, but we're only gonna be opening this once. Just so you know, as a digital imaging thing, JPEG file format is compressed. Every time you open and close a JPEG file format, Photoshop compresses it a little each time. So if you work a lot on an image and open and close it, every time you open and close that JPEG file format, Photoshop compresses it a little bit. Every time you compress it, you lose a little bit of the quality of it. TIFF file format has no compression. TIFF file format will also save the layers. JPEG will not. So if you open it up as a JPEG and you do a bunch of things and then has a bunch of layers and you resave it as a JPEG, it's going to collapse everything into a flat file. TIFF file format will not do that. TIFF file format is a good file format because it doesn't compress, it saves its layers, and if you are a graphic designer, it also is a file format that can be imported into an InDesign file. When I work on something, I very frequently will save it as a TIFF file format because it doesn't have any compression. Back in the day, InDesign would not accept and import a Photoshop file. It does now. So that was just a habit that I got into, is to always save it as a TIFF file format, no compression, saves the layers. PNG file is for something that's transparent. So if it has a transparent background, then you would save it as a PNG, which this isn't going to have that. So I'm just going to keep it at JPEG for simplicity.
But, well, didn't you just say that TIFF is better?
It is, but I'm not going to be opening and closing this 100 times. So I'm just going to save it as a JPEG. But it wouldn't matter. I could save this as a TIFF file format.
So as far as for our project, to make it simple, we keep it a JPEG?
You could keep it a JPEG, or if you want, you could save it as TIFF. If you think you're going to be using this file many, many times, opening and closing it, save it as TIFF. It takes just a little bit more storage area, but no, it will not be compressed.
Okay.
There is no compression in a TIFF file format.
Good safety tip.
So it's kind of, I always will work with TIFFs over JPEGs. Now, with this, you cannot rename this number here, right? So it gives you this really long kind of number within it, so you can't rename it. But you can choose where you're going to save this file. So make a note where you save it, because I guarantee all of you who are looking at your phones and looking at your screens are going to make a scan and say, I can't find my picture. You know what I'm going to say? Good luck. Because you're not paying attention. You want to save it someplace where you can find it. So if we're going to go to Documents, I'm going to save it into Documents. Now with this, you could also come to Select and open up where you want it to go. So if I'm going to come to Documents, that would be my choice, and I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call this Project 3, Retouching. Okay, so now I know exactly where it's going. I'm going to hit Create and choose. All right, so I can see here it's going into my Project 3 Retouching folder. Now I like to preview it. So I'm taking my image that I have, I'm opening up the scanner, and I want to place it on one of the edges of the scanner. So there's glass, right? So if we look at the scanner, there's like, this is the scanner glass. I'll usually place it at one of the edges. Or if you're going to place it in the center, try to place it as square as possible. Otherwise, you're going to have to do what we did in Lesson 2, with your crop tool and straighten that image because you don't want an image that's crooked. So if I were to place it like this, like we had in lesson 2, I would have to straighten it. So I'm going to place it to the bottom so it's even along the edge.
Wouldn't it be better if you put it at a corner? Now you have
You
two
could put it
sides.
at a corner, yep, that would work too, but I'm just hoping that one of the edges is always straight. So
Right.
you could put it at a corner as well, so either of them would work, at a corner or just along the bottom. Then you close the lid. Now, I like to preview. I like to do a preview just to make sure that what I'm going to be scanning scans. So there's a preview and a scan button. So you're gonna hear it. I don't know if you can hear it, it's like,
We're here for this one here.
yeah, he's doing that one too. So this one seems like it's taking a little long. Usually,
No, and also it's giving me a red light.
that one I know. I had that one up here. Let's see. For some reason, I don't know why this is taking long. I'm gonna hit cancel for a second.
I think it's buffering.
I don't know. Usually doesn't. Usually it goes. Okay, there it goes. Okay, now let me just try preview again. Maybe it just needed to be warmed up. Okay, there it goes.
Oh, so that way you can adjust the resolution.
This way, I just want to see what I scanned. So there it is there. There's my image that I scanned, and yes, that's it. So that is fine. So I can try to make any other selections, or if I see that something is cut off or whatever, but it looks right. So now I'm just going to scan this image. You'll hear it.
And that picture will go on the before.
This is going to be my before picture. It's going to go right here. So while I have this open, it's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this image and bring it into the before area. Now I'm going to have to crop it first.
Right.
So there is that image of that TIFF image. So I'm just going to collapse this for a second, and I'm going to right click on that file and say open with Adobe Photoshop. Okay, so there is that image that I have. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I know the size and the resolution is 5.5 by 5.5 at 300 ppi. So I'm going to grab my crop tool. I still have it from last class, so it's going to be 5.5 up in the options bar, space 5.5. And then it's 300. All right, so now I can move this here. I'm going to move it up to the bottom, and as I scroll down, I'm just going to bring this so it crops that image. Now I don't want any of that white kind of, that old like kind of border that they have. So I might lose a little bit of it, and so once I get it into the area, that's where I'm going to crop it. So in order to crop, I'm going to either hit the check in the options bar, or I'm going to hit the return on my keyboard. Sometimes it might take 2 returns. Now, if I zoom this up a little, there is still a little bit of this white, and I'm thinking maybe it would help me that maybe I didn't quite have it straight. So I might give this a little bit of a
Adjustment.
straightening out, right? So I'm going to bring this to the side this way because I want to make sure. And just even if I lose a little bit there, let's see what happens here. It still has that little bit. I'm not quite getting it all. I'm just going to have to get into my dad's hair a little bit here.
What if you use the straightening? And you,
So if I want to, see, it's a little bit, I'm going to zoom up here a little bit. All right, let's try. He asked, what if we use the straighten? So let's try with the straighten first. So remember with the straighten, I want to go in the line that is not even. Okay, and now let's see. So that was a good suggestion. So there's that straighten. So now here is my image of my dad from probably like about 70 years ago, maybe even more, right? So it's probably like the 1950 or so. So we could see all of these tears and scratches, and along this we've got a bunch of like where the image just isn't that great. I'm going to do a few of the manual ones, and then I'm going to go into the neural filters that we went over. But before I do that, I'm going to transfer this file over into my before and after, right? So I've got two files up, open up here, 1 and 2. I can just simply come up to Window, Arrange, 2 up vertical. So before I do anything, you want to get that original photo in there. So I'm going to take the Move tool. I know I'm selected in the scan because I can see it in my layers panel, right? So I'm just going to take that layer and click, hold, and drag. Now, if you scan it the right size, it should fit right in that square. You could use your arrow keys left and right. If it's too big or too small, you don't have it the correct size and resolution. I've made it so this is a 5 by 5, 5.5 by 5.5 square at 300 ppi. So if your image comes larger or smaller, just know that that image is not the right resolution and size that you need. Okay, so now here's my before, and I'm going to work on the after. So I have both of these images up, and I am going to arrange, consolidate to all tabs. I'm going to come back to my original scan. Now before I do anything, I'm going to save this, right? So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save it in that same folder. My name, I'm going to call this OG Scan. All right, that's my original scan that I've done. Haven't retouched it yet. All right, so now I know I have it as a TIFF file format. Notice, because this is a TIFF file format, there is no compression. So I can open and close this file many, many times and nothing will get compressed. The file size will remain the same. So I'm going to click OK. So the first thing I'm going to work on is I'm going to show you the 2 tools that we use to try to get rid of this big kind of crease. Even before I do that, I might want to add an adjustment layer. It looks a little bit dark. So adjustment layers will allow me to lighten or darken this image. So if I want to use a layer adjustment that I can turn on and off, I'm going to come up to my adjustments, which are already on, and they're to the side over here, and I'm going to choose levels. Levels is the adjustment. I like to keep my properties panel open that will adjust the shadows, midtones, and highlights. When in doubt, if you don't know how to adjust these or you don't trust your optics, you can always hit auto and see what happens. So it actually made it a little bit darker. It brought the slider of the shadows in a little bit more. If you don't like that and you say, okay, I want it just a little bit, the highlights just a little bit brighter, you can do that there. Now, if you bring the highlights way too high, what it does is it takes a lot of the detail out. If you look in his shirt, it takes out some of those creases. Just as a rule of thumb, you want to make sure that you have some sort of action on this histogram. Okay? Now, when you look at that, you can see in your layers panel, which I don't know where my layers panel went to. Oh, here it is. It's connected with this. That we have our levels adjustment layer, right? So you can see how it did make it a little richer in the back. Now, I like to, if you do that and you don't want to get confused, because now you want to make sure that you always come back to that background layer to do any of your adjustments and not beyond that adjustment layer. So want to make sure we're on that background layer.
Excuse me, how come you didn't use the teardrop on the white so it could acclimate the rest? Because the t-shirt shirt is very white, right?
So you're saying the curve. So there is no color here. So to find the white point is if it's a color tone thing.
Yeah.
So if it was too yellow or too blue or then you would find the white point. But with you could still probably do it if you see it's really off. But that's the reason why I wasn't correcting tone yet. But if it's a color picture, like I've got a few color pictures up here that if someone wants to use, like this one that the tone is a little on the yellowy side, then I would do that. from like one of my birthday parties when I was a kid. So the first thing, I'm going to try to repair this tear. So if it works on yours, the remove tool, which is the AI tool, I'm not sure, has anyone tried to do lesson 2 on if you don't have the software on these, and see, did any of the restorative tools work? Anyone try it yet? I'll do it both ways. So the remove tool, remember it's a brush. You want the brush to kind of resemble the size of this. Now because there's some wide ones, we might have to make more than one. So I have selected remove after each stroke. If you don't, it kind of compiles them all and then you have to say yes and click the check. So if you don't have that, you're not going to see anything happen until you hit the check. I like to have remove after each stroke on this. So I'm going to just click, hold, and drag right down. I am not releasing my mouse, and let's just see what happens. Now, with the AI ones, it takes a little bit of time, so you got to be patient with it. That's pretty damn good, right? Just for one click and drag. Now, this is where your zoom tool comes in. You want to zoom up on some of these things. Spacebar will change any tool into a hand tool. So these are some of the things where I'm saying to have some detail. And what it's doing is it's just going to erase these, right? So there's all of these like little scratches. Now, it kept that one in there. So with these, I could just even do some click and hold, and just to get rid of some of them. Now there's a lot of these really, small ones on his face. So I am going to use my left bracket and just come along his forehead where the photograph is kind of cracked a little bit. The paper is so old and dry that it's cracking. Now that didn't do such a great job on that one. I might try to use a different tool to see if it works. I might try to do the spot healing brush instead. So click, hold, and drag, and let's just see where it happens there. Still not so great. So if you find that some of these tools aren't working, then we're going to go to our neural filters, right? So we went into those last class. But I got, a good portion done here. So these are under filter, neural filters. This brings up a totally different dialog box with different tools that you can use. So notice our tools are gone. We just have a move tool, a zoom tool, or add or subtract. So we have different tools. All of the filters that we have at our disposal are here. They don't automatically turn on because they take a lot of memory. So Photoshop wants you to choose the ones so you don't take a lot of memory. So the first one that I might do is the very bottom one is photo restoration. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to take a little bit of time for it to come. You'll see at the bottom processing. There's a little scale there, and we'll see if it gets rid of some of these other kind of scratches and tears. Okay, there's still a few scratches and tears that I'm going to have to try to work with. So one of the things that we have is scratch reduction. So I'm looking like around the side here, and I'm just going to see if I bring scratch reduction, what kind of happens. And again, it's going to go through the same type of process, and I might have to go use those manually. That's why it's always good to know how to use both, because some of these AI features might not work or give you the best result that you're looking for. Now, I'm going to try even enhance face on this because he had some kind of scratches on his face, and see if that could make a difference.
Did you adjust the scratch reduction and then
So I tried it first, the photo restoration, and then I went and adjusted this, and it just kind of, now notice those scratches went away, right? When I did this scratch reduction. If you want to try to do any of these other ones, like enhance the face, up or down, you can do that. So you're just kind of looking to see what happens with these.
What about the forehead?
So that's where we can kind of zoom in. Now his forehead looks a little weird. I might have to go in with the clone stamp tool and try to adjust that. So maybe with enhance face, photo enhancement. Maybe it'll kind of, it even looks like his glasses got a little bit strange there. We'll compare, but I don't want to spend too much time on those kind of details. Now, another one that I might want to choose is JPEG artifact removal. So if you have dust, scratches, any other kind of like small little specks, this JPEG artifact removal will take care of those. It gives you the strength of low, high, medium. I always choose high. It asks you, are you satisfied? You don't have to answer yes or no. There's a few other ones that if you have a portrait of somebody, like Laura's using a portrait, one of them is called skin smoothing. It'll automatically detect where the face is. So it might smooth some of those lines that are on the face from the actual old image itself. There's another one that's called Smart Portrait, that it kind of will just give you all of these different kind of features. So if I want to do any of these, if I want to make somebody look younger, their hair look thicker, change their happiness, this is the one that I did the other day. You can use multiple filters. Another fun one is, and it's still working on this one, you'll know when it's done working because this little slider at the bottom will keep going. So we'll wait till it's done. You don't want to do too many because then you can get stuck and it'll freeze. So you want to wait till that little slider is done. The last one I'm going to do, super zoom is another one that kind of will make kind of a nice portrait. The last one I'm going to do is to colorize it. I think that one's kind of a fun one, to take an old image and colorize it. And there it recognizes like what's green, what's blue, and that, to me, that's a pretty good result for just colorizing something. Now at the bottom, let me make this a little bit higher in the back so you can see it. Hopefully it won't close it. Let me see if I can make this. There we go. At the bottom, for our output, I like to make a new layer. So instead of doing it on the current layer where it switches your current layer, it'll make a new layer. You can even, you can even make a new document. If you want it to have it be a totally different document, you can. And then I'm just going to click OK.
That's because you colorized it.
It'll do it for any of those. So if I don't want to even work, if I want to keep my old document as my old scan and go from my new document with the neurofilter, I can. So now when I'm looking at this, I'm going to bring this above, because as I have this below, I guess I could keep it below as well. You can see the difference between the two, right? So that did a pretty good job. Now there are still a few like little scratches and things that I might want to take care of. Now I could even see it's kind of discolored, but I think that's kind of natural where you can see the shadow in his shirt. From here, I can continue to do any of my other type of restorations. This would be fine here as it goes, but again, I like to kind of zoom up. So the coloring actually looks pretty good. The blurring looks fine. So if there was any other ones that I had to do, I would do it from here. But this is fine for me. So now I'm going to do a file, save as, and again, DEJOY, Stephen, retouch. All right, I'm going to save this as a PSD file, my Photoshop file, and it's going in that same one. And I'm going to hit save, then OK. All right, this is the other file I'm going to upload, my retouched file. I want to see the retouched file with any layers that you have in it. So this is the PSD file I'm going to upload. Now, I have to get this file into the other file. So I'm going to do the same thing. Now, with this, I've got this adjustment layer attached to it. And I don't want to bring, I could bring two layers over. I guess it really wouldn't matter. But if I want to make it even easier on myself, I've just saved this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily flatten it. And I'm going to go back and undo this flatten. So I'm going to go to flatten the image. And the reason why I do this is I just want one layer to bring over into that composite. So I'm going to go to Window, Arrange, 2 up vertical, and I'm going to take this one background and just drag it over. Okay? Now I'm going to come back to here and I'm going to do a Command Z. Undo that edit, right? So I bring back those layers that I just did. I'm going to come back now here and do a Window, Arrange, Consolidate to all tabs. So if you did everything right, it should fit directly over that square. All right, so here's my before and here's my after. Original scan, retouched image, right? So now I have to save this one. This is the one that you're going to save as a PDF. All right, so I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I want to come back into the Documents and Project 3 Retouching, and I am going to select everything, DEJOY, Stephen, I could call it composite, whatever you want to call it, before and after, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to call it composite. All right? And now I'm going to save this as a Photoshop PDF. Right? So it's in my folder, composite, Photoshop PDF, and save. Now it should come up with my questions. Always answer yes or okay. So here is okay. Want to make sure that I've got my preserve Photoshop editing capabilities checked. Yes, save, and hit yes. Okay, so now I've got my 2 files ready. The PSD file that I just saved, and now this before and after. So as I come to, I think I could do it as a student. Let me see, I think I can. I'm going to come to Start Assignment. Remember, we're uploading 2 images. So Start Assignment. Choose a file to upload. I am going to come into, where am I? I'm under Assignments. I'm going to go right to Documents. So I'm going to look for that photo retouching. So I have to upload first the composite. Going to upload. And you can see that there is the file here. Underneath it is Add Another File. I'm going to click Add Another File. Now I'm going to choose my OG file, right? And that's this one here. That's the PSD file. Okay, so I've got my composite file and my PSD file, 2 files. Just as a reminder, if the image that you bring in or have, if it is not a 5x5 image, like the one that Laura has, it's her grandfather, so it's a much taller piece, I'll sit down and help you and create a new composite so you could do a before and after. Otherwise, it won't fit on the 5x5. But if your image that you scan will be a 5x5, no worries. But if you have one that is like more of a portrait, like 8x10, and you're thinking, oh, I want to give it to somebody, then see me and I'll sit down with you during lab and we'll adjust that composite of the before and after to be the right size. Okay,
So
then we're,
For clarification, the composite, the before and after, the after is the same one as the retouch.
right. Yep. Exactly. So there's 2, before and after. The one that's on the after is the same as the retouched one. But I just want to see what you did.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to see your Photoshop file. Okay, and then we're going to hit Submit Assignment. When you see the confetti, that means I got them. If you try to upload something beside a PSD or a PDF, it'll give you a file error. Any questions on this assignment or any of the things that I did here in this demonstration? Okay, so that gives you about 2 hours to work. Just going back again to the assignments that are due. If you're working in any sort of order, make sure you have these 2 before anything else. This is due by the end of day today. If you haven't taken this quiz, after today, every day is 1 point taken off. If you take 7 points off, if you wait until the 29th, you'll probably, you'll get like a D on it. So the quicker you get those done, the more points you will have from your assignment.
Which one is the family in Venice? Is that book exercise?
From the family in Florence is the book exercise for lesson 2, and you have until October 6th. That's where you take the kid off of the bridge.
And clean it up, right?
Right, all of the directions in that. If somebody needs a photo to scan, I have a few of them, but you have time. If you want to take over the weekend, ask your parents, ask your grandparents, do you have an old photo? Do that. It kind of means a little bit more to you, I think, if you have one. Then when we're done with these, when you're done, if anyone chooses, we can go across the hall and we can print them out onto nice photographic paper and cut them out. I've had many students who have done that and put them in a frame and give them as a gift as a restored photo. So just know you have that option that will go across the hall and print them out, and then we have to trim them. But that's kind of why it's good if it's something that has some meaning to you. Any questions before I cut you loose? Made it on time. All right. Thank you for your attention. Have a good weekend.